Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Tonight's guest has been on before. He's the co-host of the Sports Dudes podcast, and that is my friend James Celestin. How are you doing on this Thursday evening?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Madison?
I'm doing great. We were just sitting here talking about the Knicks and their big win to tie the series up at 1 apiece. Give me your thoughts on these two games so far.
Well, game one, I thought the Knicks should have won that game. The Knicks gave that game, especially down the stretch. They had a 3-point lead with a minute left to go. If R.J. Barrett would have came up with that steal on that Trae Young drive, then the Knicks would have won game one. Game two was more, the Knicks came back in the second half, but Atlanta also missed a lot of open shots. So you could debate that Atlanta gave that game away too, but the fact is that Knicks are tied 1-1. They're going down to Atlanta. I think it will benefit the Knicks because you have to realize down in the ATL, there are a good amount of Knicks fans who are transplant, who live in Atlanta, who are Knicks fans, more so than Hawks fans. So I think, home court will be closer to neutralized. I know the Hawks fans show up, but the Knicks fans do travel. So I think it will benefit. I think Julius Randle will have a better game than he had his first two games. R.J. Barrett is going to step up, and Derrick Rose has been playing fantastic. And I think that the Elfrid Payton experiment is over. It's time to move on. He is awful. He's been awful the last month and a half, and it's time to go in a new direction. I started Emmanuel quickly. The reason being is because I'm pick and roll situation. A man quickly can shoot. So instead of crashing down on Randall, you have to respect the fact that he can shoot. So because he can shoot, you'll have to respect their shooting. So quickly starts. You give Rose a breather, and then you can have quickly and with Rose together. Keep that bench unit the same with Alec Burks coming. And I think the Knicks will take at least 1 to 2 games down in the ATL.
I think the Knicks will split in the ATL. I really think that the series should be 1-1. I think that you can make a case the Knicks should have won game one. You alluded to the near steal by R.J. Barrett, but you could also look at that Trae Young shot and say that it was a tough shot, and if he misses that game obviously goes to overtime. The Knicks win. And in game two, you mentioned it, the Hawks, they did not shoot as well in game two as they did in game one, and maybe if they shoot better, they could have won. So
Trae Young's a star in this league. This man is special. And, I think the trade that Atlanta did with Dallas for Luka Doncic and Trae Young, I think both teams, I think it's an equal win. Luka's a great player, and Trae's a great player. I think he's been doing work in this series. But, hey, man, he's embracing the villain role. I like that, but don't stare at him. Don't, if you want to chant the FU chants, fine. If you want to chant Trae's balding, fine. But don't spare him. Don't throw anything at him. Don't do that.
Yeah, I agree with you about Trae. I think that he's embraced the villain role. Can you make a case that he's the biggest villain since Reggie Miller at MSG, or that's gone a little too far? Maybe LeBron, when LeBron was on the Heat?
I would say he's closer to LeBron. I think he's closer more to LeBron level. I need to see Atlanta Knicks play more in the postseason, then I can make that case. But in this turn of the century, I would put LeBron and Trae Young 1 and 2 in biggest MSG villains right now. That's what I would put it. And then it would be for me. It would be Reggie. It'd be Jordan. It'd be LeBron, and it would be Trae. In that order.
Yeah, and then if there's other villains, you could even say Porzingis because obviously he wanted out. Like I'm talking about like recent villains, even Kevin Durant in a way.
You can put Durant up there. You can put Porzingis.
Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving, like recent villains, you can. But I would say Trae Young right now would be above either of them because he especially his post game after game 2. I don't know if you caught this, but after game 2. He told the Knicks fans, we gonna see you in the ATL. So He's embracing the bad guy role, and I actually like it. I like it. It just shows that the Knicks are back. It shows you that the Knicks are back, Madison. It shows you that this is what happens when the Knicks are good. You see the fans go at it, and you see athletes take ownership in being the bad guy. So that just shows you what Knicks basketball is all about in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And that fan, I agree with you. He should have been banned from MSG. I think that I know Dolan's gotten a lot of heat in the past for banning people for silly things, but this is a deserved ban in my opinion because like spitting on somebody is just not nice regardless of the situation. And same for the Philadelphia fan that threw popcorn on Russell Westbrook too. That was ridiculous as well. But back to the Knicks for a second here. What do you make of Obi Toppin's role in this series? I think he's been excellent in these first two games, and I absolutely adored the fact that the crowd was chanting his name and his mother getting emotional. That really was a neat moment for Obi's mom, I thought.
Oh, that was fantastic. I was really, really glad. That moment was really tearful. Like Obi's mom being emotional. And I'm going to make a hot take. This is one of my main hot takes. This is going to be the first hot take. You ready?
Ready.
I think Obi Toppin not only is playing better than Julius Randle, I think he should get more minutes than Julius Randle right now.
Ooh.
Look at how Obi Toppin is playing. Julius Randle is the most improved player. He's been great this season. But if you look at the two postseason games, you look at Obi Toppin. He's not afraid of the moment. He's taking this all in. He's enjoying this. Like, remember, he played in Dayton. Dayton didn't have the many electricity as MSG. He's from New York. He's from Brooklyn. Went to school up in Westchester. Dude is born and bred New York. He's embracing this role. He's making the most of it. He's scoring. I think he should get more minutes until Randle gets it together. So I think Obi should get more minutes, and he's been playing much better than Julius Randle is right now.
That's a crazy take, and I think that Randle will bounce back. But I do agree with you that Obi Toppin should be getting more playing time. I think he should be getting more playing time than, say, Taj Gibson. That's my opinion. I would try out those two together, Randle and Toppin. One of them could play center. I know that weakens the defense a little bit. Actually, no, it weakens the defense a lot, but I would try that. I would try that against like a weaker Hawks defensive lineup too, like a lineup without Clint Capella in it that the Hawks could throw out. That's what I would do the Randle Toppin thing for like maybe a little bit in pieces just to generate more offense. And I think that Randle and Toppin are capable of getting rebounds. And even Randle's a better defensive player now than he was a year ago. I mean, that's because of the presence of Thibodeau. And speaking of Tom Thibodeau, we got to talk about Thibodeau. Do you think he should and will win Coach of the Year?
He should win Coach of the Year. Unfortunately, he won't win Coach of the Year because they're going to give it to Monty Williams. And listen, I have nothing against Monty Williams. His story is fantastic. I mean, fantastic as in he came back from a heartbreaking situation. He's coaching well, but I'll be honest. And no disrespect to Monty Williams, but let's be real. CP3 is the main reason why the Suns are where they are. You take CP3 away from that team. That team is a play-in team or at best a lottery team. Let's not get twisted. The Knicks virtually had the same players as last year. Julius Randle was terrible. RJ Barrett had a disappointing rookie season. Like, you know, there were people on this team that were just terrible. And now Tom Thibodeau comes in. The Knicks have the number one best defense in the league. They're fourth in defensive rating. They're the number one three-point percentage shooting team in basketball. RJ Barrett's improved dramatically from three-point. So is Julius Randle. He just won most improved player. Mitchell Robinson was taking steps to be an elite defensive player before he went down with an injury. Noel has been a revelation. You know, like you're talking about players who basically his career has been revived. Derrick Rose, who was an afterthought, comes back and his career has been revitalized. I mean, you're talking about a man who was basically a finalist for Sixth Man of the Year. Like Alec Burke is showing improvement. Like, man, you're talking about a misfit of guys coming together, and they're a reason why they're called the Big 15. So Tom Thibodeau should win Coach of the Year. I don't think he will because I guess the media is going to be biased and give it to Monty. But I totally think that if I had a vote in the media for Coach of the Year, I think it should be Tom Thibodeau. because if you look how the Knicks were last year, a lottery team, this year, 4th seed in the Eastern Conference and a playoff team, it's no question that Thibodeau should be coach of the year.
I agree with you. I think that Tom Thibodeau should be the coach of the year, but where I disagree, I actually think he's going to win it. I really think he's going to win it because of a lot of the New York East Coast media with the narrative of the Knicks and how bad they were and their first time in the postseason since 2013. And I think the other narrative, you mentioned it with the Suns. All due respect to Monty Williams, fantastic story. He's done a fantastic job, no question. But that team is a play-in team without Chris Paul. I wouldn't say a lottery team. I'd say they would be where the Grizzlies were, like, without CP3 because of how good Booker is. I think that's still probably I'd say a play-in team, not a playoff team without Chris Paul, but play-in. But say if the Knicks had Chris Paul, then they'd probably be perfect the 1 seed. But
the Knicks, if the Knicks had CP3,
they'd be the 1 seed.
The top 3.
They'd be probably the 1 seed.
They probably would be the 1 seed.
They might be the 1 seed with Chris Paul, and then Thibodeau probably wouldn't be the coach of the year.
Absolutely. You see the difference? Because if Thibodeau had CP3, then the narrative as well, if CP3 just changed everything and whatnot.
Thibodeau would have a good argument, but I don't know if he would win it if we had CP3. So that's just a fun little subplot there. I think Thibodeau's going to win it. That's where I disagree with you. I'd be very upset if Thibodeau doesn't win. All due respect to Monty Williams, by the way, who's fabulous.
Same. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want Thibodeau to win it because of what we just outlined. It's just that, like, the only reason why I said Monty Williams because of my fear of because of they're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference and the teams are tougher and that's what the narrative is. But I hope Thibodeau wins it because, again, the Knicks have been a running joke for some time, and now the Knicks are now a playoff team, and no one's joking now.
Exactly, and now there's talks about, I know this is a little premature, but now there's talks about them signing marquee free agents like Brooklyn did after their surprising 2018-19. This is what it's kind of kind of resembles in a way. Kawhi Leonard's a free agent. The Clippers are down 0-2 to Dallas. You can only dream, baby. But I don't know. I'm just being a selfish Knicks fan right now.
We're not saying it's likely, but hey, just remember the way the Knicks are playing. You don't think marquee free agents are taking those? LeBron made a tweet about how loud MSG is. You're seeing all players taking notes of what the Knicks are doing. So again, it's not as far-fetched as you think. I'm not saying it's unlikely, but just keep in mind of how the players are reacting, how MSG is. Maybe, I'm just saying. So just keep that in mind.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but just don't be surprised in the next couple of years if either the Knicks sign a marquee free agent or the Knicks can trade for a marquee star. So just keep that in mind.
Yep, I agree with you. I think that that is absolutely in play within the next couple months and years ahead. Probably within the next 2-3 years. Maybe they have 2 or 3 stars on their team that we're not even thinking of. But it's hard to speculate. How do you think this series with the Hawks will finish?
The Knicks are going to win this series in 7.
I agree.
I've said this from day one. See, on our show, The Sports Dude, Nick asked me the prediction of this series. I had the Knicks in 7. I had the Knicks winning. I had the Knicks winning 2 games at home, Atlanta holding serve, and it's going to back and forth. It's going to be.
That's what I thought too, actually.
But I think ultimately the Knicks are going to win this. The Knicks are going to win this in 7. They're 2 evenly matched teams. Their teams are basically identical to each other. Hawks obviously have the more talent because of Bogdanovich and Gallinari and John Collins. The Hawks got talent, but the Knicks are a better team. I think Knicks are a slightly better team. So I think the Hawks are going to lose to the Knicks in 7 games, and we're going to take on the Philadelphia 76ers in round 2.
Yep, I think it's going to be Knicks against Philly in the second round as well. Let's talk about some of the other playoff series really quickly before we move on to your favorite hockey team. We talked about the 76ers and the Wizards. We talked about the Westbrook situation. Do you think that's a sweep or that Washington can steal one?
Gentleman's sweep. I think Washington's probably going to win one of the 2 home games, and Philly's going to close it out in Philadelphia. I'm just like, even though the Westbrook injury does hurt, I still think that the Wizards are gonna at least win one of the games at home. I think it's gonna be a gentleman's sweep. I think Philadelphia will take care of business in 5 games down in Philly. So that series is gonna be over in 5.
I think it's 5 as well. I'm going to say Bradley Beal goes off for one game. Washington steals either game 3 or game 4. Do you think that the Brooklyn Nets will gentleman sweep or actually sweep? Or even win in 6, potentially?
The Nets are not winning in 6. Let's put that to bed.
The Nets, you mean?
The Nets are not going to win the series in 6. They're going to win the series in 4. They're going to sweep the hell out of Boston. Jason Tatum is injured, and Jaylen Brown's out for the entire year. There's nothing that Boston has shown me that says, hey, you know what? We're going to win. No, I'm sorry. They have no one to stop the big 3. And Joe Harris is really, really good. And Claxton plays exceptional defense. Blake Griffin is a really nice complimentary piece now. Like, Brooklyn is going to sweep the holy hell out of Boston. It's not even close. It's over.
I think that it's actually going to be a gentleman's sweep as long as Tatum is over 50% healthy. He looks like he's going to play in game 3 in Boston. I could see a world where the Celtics win either game 3 or game 4, kind of like Washington. But I think it's more likely that Washington loses in 5 than Boston loses in 5. So I think Boston's more likely to be swept. What about the last series in the East? The best series, arguably, in the Eastern Conference playoff first round, the Heat and the Bucks, but what we thought could have been the best one, I should say.
I'm not losing hope on Miami. I think the Bucks will still win the series. I'm going to say the Bucks will win in 6. I'm not losing faith in the Heat. I trust Eric Spoelstra. He's a hell of a coach. I trust him. I think Jimmy Butler is going to bounce back. I think Tyler Hero is going to play a bigger role. I think Reed's going to show up. Duncan Robinson's going to be fantastic. Bam Adebayo is going to do work. I'm not losing faith in the Heat, and I trust Eric Spoelstra that much. So I'm going to say the Bucks will still win this series, but it's going to go 6, and I think the Heat are going to give a strong effort, especially heading down to South Beach.
I think Bucks in 6 as well, but I don't feel as strongly about it as you do. I'm going to say that maybe Butler finally bounces back and they win game 3. Maybe game 4 is like a classic a la game 1, except Miami wins, and then Milwaukee wins the next 2. That's how I think it's going to play out. But Butler's got to be better if Miami wants to makes this a series here. Let's go over to the West. My favorite Western series is Suns-Lakers, and I don't think it's quite close. I love this series so much. And James, want to hear my pick, and I'm still sticking with it.
Go ahead.
Suns in 7. I'm all in. Going with the upset here.
All in.
That's my hottest take on this podcast.
Wow.
LeBron out in round 1.
Wow.
But CP3, that makes me nervous. He better be healthy.
I got the Lakers in 6.
Okay.
I think if CP3 ain't healthy, Madison, the series is over in 5.
Probably.
Listen. If it was a healthy CP3, I think your hot take wouldn't be as hot because you look what happened in game 1 with a healthy CP3. DeAndre Ayton had probably one of his better games and just took Anthony Davis to school. But I still think that LeBron and AD are going to be the stars that are going to be. I think you're going to see Tavius Caldwell-Pope going to step up. You're going to see Alex Caruso do some things. Maybe you might see a Kuzma sighting. Don't sleep on Andre Drummond getting the boards. I think that when the stars need them to be stars, when the rubber meets the road, I think the Lakers are going to win this series in 6 games.
Yeah, like I said, CP to me is the X factor here. His health. It looks like he's gonna play tonight, so that's good. Clippers Dallas. Dallas is up 2-0. I chose Clippers at 6. I mean, I still think that has a shot of happening, but I think it's more likely to go 7 now than I would have thought maybe 3 days ago. So, what are your takes on the Mavericks Clippers series? And this is an interesting one for Knicks fans, obviously, because obviously we hate Dallas because of Porzingis, and the Clippers. I know some Knicks fans want them to lose early in the postseason because of Kawhi being a free agent. What's your thoughts on that series?
Oh, that's a tough one. Like, see, I'm torn because I want Dallas to win for the Kawhi factor, but I really hate Kristaps. I have nothing against Luka Doncic. I think Luka Doncic is fantastic.
I love
Luka.
Luka.
I really despise Kristaps Porzingis. I had Clippers in 7. I don't want to jump ship off my pick because I got to be a man with integrity. I'm going to stick with that pick,
Yes.
Madison, but I'm not confident in that pick. I'm not as confident. Like, if you look at the first 2 games, Luka Doncic has absolutely been the best player in this series. Luka Doncic has made plays. He's, Tim Hardaway Jr. is showing up. The other shooter for Dallas, he showed up. You're talking, and KP has been playing well begrudgingly. I have the Clippers in 7. I'm gonna stick with the Clippers in 7, but I gotta tell you, I don't feel confident in the Clippers in 7. Like, in order for the Clippers to turn this series around, Kawhi Leonard has to keep Luka Doncic in check, and Paul George needs to not be pandemic P and actually, be the Robin to Kawhi's Batman. He needs to step up. You need Pat Beverly needs to step up. Rajon Rondo, hello, Rajon Rondo. Where's playoff Rondo? Like you were in the bubble last year. We need you to step up as well. So I got the Clippers in 7. I'm not confident in my pick, but I have to be a man and stick with that pick, even though I'm not entirely confident in that pick.
Yeah, I'm not so confident in my this series might go 7 pick. I don't know who wins. Probably the Clippers. I initially said Clips in 6, but they would have to win 4 straight for that to come into fruition, which to me isn't that impossible. All it has to take is like Kawhi slowing down Luka, PG getting hot, Porzingis cooling off. It has to take a couple things for it to happen. Blazers Nuggets to me is an interesting first round series. That's 1-1 right now. What was your pick and how confident are you in that pick?
I got the Blazers winning this series in 6. I'm still confident that. First off, Damian Lillard is one of my favorite players. I love Damian Lillard. If Damian Lillard, see, I've always had a joke about, because Damian Lillard has been so loyal. I want Damian Lillard one day to go up to point and say, I want to get the hell out of here. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this losing stuff, and I want him in New York because Damian Lillard in New York would be a showstopper. But that's just my personal preference. But the reason why I got the Blazers in 6 is because Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are going to step up. They've been playing well. Carmelo Anthony has been nice in his role. I like that. And I got to say this, though, Nurkic has been playing well, and if Dame Doll and McCollum can continue to play well and put pressure on Denver, because the loss of Jamal Murray is going to hurt, then I think then Blazers are going to win this in 6. I feel confident that. I know Jokic is going to be the MVP. I know that they've had Michael Porter has been fantastic, and so is Aaron Gordon in his arrival. But I'm sticking with the Blazers. That's my pick. I love Dame Dollar, and I'm going to stick with it. Blazers in 6.
That was my pick as well. Blazers in 6, and my thought was Damian Lillard, a clutch postseason player. We've seen him hit buzzer beaters in the postseason in the past. And obviously the injuries to Jamal Murray and Will Barton obviously are devastating for Denver. Although Barton might be back, which will help Denver. But I thought that the loss of Murray was just significant for Denver. And that combined with Damian Lillard's playoff history, I really, really liked Portland in this series, and I'm going to stick with my Portland in 6 as well. And then the last one, to me, the biggest surprise of the game ones was Memphis going to Utah and beating the Jazz. But to be fair, no Donovan Mitchell in that game, which to me, that was a distraction for the Jazz. And obviously, the Jazz bounced back and won game number 2. My pick for that series, Jazz in 5. I'm probably going to be wrong. That's probably going to end up going 6.
I originally was going to go Memphis in 6, but then I ultimately decided to go with Jazz in 6, and I'm going to stick by that. Something to keep an eye on, and keep an eye on Donovan Mitchell in his situation with Utah.
Yep.
Keep an eye on that.
Yep.
That situation is, listen, Donovan Mitchell can say all the right things because, he's professional. He signed that extension. I know Dwayne Wade's part of the ownership. I know him and Dwayne Wade are cool. But keep an eye on that situation. Ever since, remember, last year, prior to the end of the stoppage due to the COVID pandemic, you saw that him and Gobert were not eye to eye. I know they made fences, and then you saw how Mitchell was upset he didn't play game 1. You got to keep a close eye on that situation, Madison. That's something that, again, I know it relates to our Knicks, but that situation can get real ugly. So keep an eye on that.
Yep.
Now, as far as the series is concerned, listen, Ja Morant's a star. Ja Morant is fantastic. Me personally, I wish the Knicks had number 2 pick and got Morant, but it is what it is. Morant is going to be a star. That guy is coming. Dylan Brooks is fantastic. Yeah, and shooting and Valanciunas is getting the dirty boards. That team is young, hungry. Memphis is going to come, and Memphis is going to be relevant. But I think the Jazz got too much firepower. Mitchell's back is going to help. They have a nice bench. Jordan Clarkson is playing fantastic for Utah. Gobert is a defensive stopper. That block he did on Morant was fantastic. I honestly thought when I saw Morant attempt that dunk, like, oh man, he's gonna put Gobert on the poster. But I truly think the Jazz will win the series in 6. It's gonna be a fun series, and now the series sits back to Memphis, and I truly think that with Mitchell back, it's gonna be very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun series too. My pick game 1 was Jazz in 5. It can still happen. I think it's more likely Jazz in 6 now because I think I undersold Memphis and their depth. That is a deep, deep team, and I think I undersold them in this series a little bit from a competitiveness standpoint. All right. Before we go, let's pivot to hockey very quickly. Your beloved New York Islanders 6-game series win over the Penguins. I actually picked Pittsburgh in 6 in this series, and obviously I was wrong, and I took that thinking that it was going to be a series where the Islanders, I thought, were going to end up missing Varlamov, and it turns out that Sorokin ended up being like a hero for them, and now they're on the round 2 against the Bruins. I know you had Islanders in 6, so that was a correct pick for you, so that's what makes me feel good about my Knicks in 7 pick with you having your one other favorite team that's playing postseason ball right now, or postseason hockey, I should say, from the Islanders' case in 6. What are your thoughts on the Islanders series win over the Penguins?
First things first, I thought Pittsburgh outplayed the Islanders in that series, and I thought the couple of reasons why the Islanders won the series is Tristan Jarry is terrible. He is terrible. Like, the Islanders took advantage of him going glove side. And that was the key to Tristan Jarry. DeSmith was injured, so they didn't have a choice but to stick with Jarry. Tristan Jarry is awful. And I laughed when Pittsburgh originally traded Marc-Andre Fleury, and then they traded
Matt Murray.
That was, oh man, like if Pittsburgh had decent goaltending, they probably win more cups with Sid. But that's neither here nor there. But for this series, I thought Pittsburgh did not play the Islanders for the most part. The Islanders just took advantage of their opportunistic. They took the advantage what they need to. If you look at Game 5, Jarry makes a terrible pass to Bailey and gave him that goal. And then again, Game 6, like the Islanders the second period, the Islanders just owned that second period. So I think the Islanders were very fortunate to win this series. But now moving forward to Boston, I got the Islanders in 7. The Islanders are going to beat the Boston Bruins. I'm going to take this a step further. I think the Islanders are going to go in the Final Four. They're going to probably face Tampa. And you ready for this? The Islanders are going to the finals.
Wow.
They're going to the finals. I'm confident because first off, for those who don't know, what wins in the postseason is defense and goaltending. You know what the Islanders got? Defense and goaltending. All you got to do is make timely goals. I'm not saying the Islanders can outscore teams, but you play sound defense and timely goals. That was try to take the Islanders far. This team went to the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago. If they would have taken care of the Flyers, what they should have, they would have pushed the Tampa Bay Lightning to 7 games. The Islanders are going to beat Boston. They're going to beat Tampa. They're going to go to the finals, and they're going to take on the Colorado Avalanche. I have the Islanders and the Avalanche, and they're going to be the final 2 teams. And the Islanders have a great chance to win Cup 5 and bring the championship to the island. I'm that confident. That is my hot take. The Islanders are going to be in the Final 4, and they're going to be in the Final 2. That's my hot take.
Interesting. The Boston series, I think I had Boston, before the postseason. I did on my daily show, a mock, or kind of a mock bracket of how I thought the postseason was going to play out. And my final was Boston against Vegas. And listen, I thought you guys had a real shot to beat Pittsburgh, but I wasn't confident in Sorokin, and I thought you guys would have been. I thought that the Varlamov injury was a big deal, but it turns out that Sorokin was better than Varlamov, and that was the move of the series. The move of the series. The move of the series was Sorokin over Varlamov, and they never looked back. I think that Boston Islanders, I'm going to say, that's a tough one. I'm actually going to reveal my pick on the podcast tomorrow, just to be fair, because I need to think it through. And I was going to ask you about how you felt about Boston, but I thought Boston was the best team in the Metro Division the whole year.
Boston's a fantastic team. I thought I had the Boston beating the Capitals in 5, and I was correct about that.
Wow.
I had no faith in the Capitals, and first off, I was very happy that Tom Wilson got sent home because Tom Wilson was a prick. Secondly, Boston was just better. Boston's just better. I mean, what will make it tough for the Islanders is, first off, Boston got 3 to 4 lines. They got those lines, and now adding Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall's been a revelation since he's been in Boston. You got the Bergeron line, you got Marchand, you got Pasternak, you got Krejci, you got Taylor Hall, you got so many scoring options for Boston, so it made it tough. And you got a world-class goaltender in Tuukka Rask, and Tuukka Rask. When it comes to the postseason, Tuukka Rask always steps up his game. So that being said, I think the Islanders' defense is going to contain, not shut them down, because they're not going to shut them down like they did Crosby. But I think they're going to contain Boston. They're going to end up winning the series. And I got to say, on a quick aside, Pittsburgh is done. Pittsburgh is done. That core is done because they traded most of their draft picks. They don't have a lot of players up the pipe, and their goaltending situation is a mess. I mean, think about it. They lost to Montreal prior to that. And did you know a fun fact that the Islanders are 5-1 in the postseason against the Pittsburgh Penguins? Did you know that? Because not many people knew that.
I knew that.
The last time the Penguins beat the Islanders in the postseason was that lockout-shortened season back in 2013. And even then, the Islanders almost beat the Penguins in that series.
They almost did, you're right.
And that was a terrible Islanders team.
That Islanders team was not very good. It was coached by Jack Capuano. That was John Tavares' coming out party. That's my memory of that series. I remember that series very well because obviously the Rangers were in the playoffs that year. And I was thinking in my head, I was thinking that there was a chance that we would I was thinking, what if the Rangers and the Islanders met up in the conference finals or in the postseason at some point? And the Rangers honestly should have gone further than they did in that playoffs, too. They lost in 5 to Boston in the second round. And I remember Game 1, they had a 2-1 lead, blew it, and lost in overtime. Game 3, they were up 1-0, lost 2-1 in regulation. They got blown out in Game 2. Game 5, I think, was a 2-1 game. They put the empty netter in to close out the series. And then yours truly was in attendance for the game the Rangers won in the series, which is a Chris Kreider overtime goal against Boston. So a little fun fact for you.
I gotta say this, Madison, before we move on, is that if the Islanders would have moved on and knocked out Pittsburgh, the Rangers would have swept the Islanders, because the Islanders team is terrible. And fun fact, the reason why the Islanders always been the Penguins during the signs, because the Islanders stopped Mario Lemieux from going from a dynasty. They shut that down in '93. They swept Pittsburgh when Tross's first year on the job, and they beat Pittsburgh again. So I think Pittsburgh got a lot of social for me. That Malkin, Caulfield, Letang, it's over. It's done. Pittsburgh's not a threat anymore. Pittsburgh's going to have to rebuild that team. Washington's going to have to rebuild that team, because I get it. Ovi's a free agent now, but Washington is done. Pittsburgh is done. Boston is still good.
Rangers are coming.
Rangers are coming, and I gotta say this: I do like Igor Shesterkin. I have faith in Igor Shesterkin, but for all the Rangers fans that have been clowning Sorokin, leave Sorokin alone. Until Igor has made the postseason, Sorokin is arguably the better goaltender, and I can't wait to see Shesterkin versus Sorokin for the next 10 years, because I believe in Shesterkin. You guys have a great blue line. You have great talent. All you need is the right coaching, and I think the Rangers are coming. So don't be upset, Rangers fans. Your time is coming, and you're going to be a threat. Get your time.
Yep, I agree with you. I can't wait for the Sorokin-Shesterkin matchups. That's going to be a lot of fun. One more thing before we go. Who do you think advances out of these series that are left in hockey?
I got Carolina advancing, and I had an upset. I had the Wild beating Vegas.
Ooh!
I had the Wild beating Vegas in 7.
My friend had that upset as well.
Look where we are. Look where we are. Wild's going to beat Vegas. I got Carolina beating the Preds in 6. I got Toronto taking care of business against Montreal.
I think Vegas wins Game 7. It's where I disagree with you. I just think that that's just a team that I think is just... I know the Wild have the momentum. I think that's going to be a low-scoring game. My thing, it just comes down to Marc-Andre Fleury versus Cam Talbot. Like, Cam Talbot, I mean, he's been good in this series, but, like, there's been moments in the series where I also saw him implode, like in Game 3 after Pete DeVore challenged offside. So I'm going to go with Vegas. I think Carolina closes out tonight. I think Toronto closes out tonight. And I think that we'll see Lightning Carolina, which is going to be an awesome series. Toronto Winnipeg, I think, will be a high-scoring extravaganza series. Boston Islanders, which is going to be a low-scoring, defensive-minded series. And Vegas, Colorado, which is going to be lights out, stars galore, and it's going to be so much fun. All right, James, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. Of course, I will have you back on another time, as we will obviously catch up on like the Yankees and everything else that's going on, and hopefully we'll have positive Knicks things to talk about next time you're on as well.
Absolutely. Knicks in 7, Islanders in 7. Let's go en masse, and thank you for having me on the show. Much appreciated.
You're welcome. Have a good night.